All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here. We have Hector and we have Ron. So I think I would like to ask Ron, what is the subscription model? Share a little bit about how you got to it and just your notions about it.
I think the subscription model finally aligns our rhetoric with our business model in the professions. We say we want to be the customer's trusted advisor. We say we want to, be their first call. We want to constantly help them, stay wealthier and wiser. And yet, when you look at what we're monetizing, whether we're hourly billing or value pricing, we're monetizing transactions. This finally gives us a relational business model. It puts the customer at the center of the firm. It forces us, and in fact, it insists that we plus our offering, that we continuously add value. So innovation is baked into this model. And it's finally giving the customer peace of mind and convenience and a frictionless customer experience. And I just think it's a way for us to up our game as a profession. I'm so worried that the profession is not attracting talent, and the talent that we do attract, we tend to burn out because our business models don't fit with why people become accountants. And you ask anybody, why'd you become an accountant? And they'll tell you to help people. But you can't help people if you have 500 customers and you're jumping from customer to customer to customer with no time to reflect, no time to think, no time to create, no time to innovate. That's no way for knowledge workers, let alone professionals, to operate. And I think that's why I'm such a proponent of the subscription model, because finally we have a business model that's aligned with our ultimate purpose of being a professional, which is we're accountable for results, not delivering a series of tasks.
That's fascinating. And how do you feel what is the benefit specifically? Because I know that this model is being used very successfully in other categories or other industries. How do you see it play out, in the accounting space?
Yeah, I see it playing out in the accounting space the same way we see it playing out in the medical profession with concierge doctors or direct primary care doctors. Amazon just bought One Medical for $3.4 billion, the largest DPC practice in the country. So this is going to revolutionize the way care is provided. And when I benchmark and look for, I hate the term best practices. I like next practices maybe, but stop looking at ourselves. We are so inward looking as a profession. We gaze at each other's navel. We're all in the same dirty bathwater. Get outside of the profession, benchmark them. I want to learn from Disney, FedEx, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus. I want to learn from the leaders in customer experience, not from my colleagues. Nothing against my colleagues, but if we want to make real advancements, real leaps in business model innovations, we have to look outside ourselves. And that's what I did by studying in depth the concierge doctor model, which has been around since 1996, by the way. So there's a lot of empirical evidence with this model, and it works, and it's been proven. And that's why I think this is the next logical step for the profession.
Amazing. Hector, a question for you. So you jumped right in. You've been following Ron's work for years, and it's been very rewarding. What made you look into this and say, this makes sense, I'm adopting this?
Sure. So also it's an honor to be chatting with you guys and with Ron, being such a strong mentor in my career. I successfully implemented value pricing. This is all happened pre-pandemic. 2017, 2018 is when we fully went to the transition, and we enjoyed tons of fruits from that transition. Now, number one, it changed our mindset to stop thinking about how much time we're spending in the jobs, and more thinking about, okay, are we delivering a result? Is the customer valuing that result? And in exchange, are they continuing to work with us? And that's sort of proof of concept that there's alignment between what we charge and the results that they get. The only challenge we've had, and it was is baked in the cake, and we've been okay with that, is that because value pricing is a fixed price up front, and it's typically based on our assessment of what the problem is, what the solution we're providing is, and what the end result is. It's partly tied to scope a little bit. So even though it's not time based, even though it's not based on effort, there is a general understanding that we are hired to do one particular thing and that particular thing only. And in our world, in accounting, there's just so many variables, so many moving parts. And many times customers have a question, an inquiry, or they send you a document that is not really directly linked to sort of that result that we were aiming towards fixing in exchange of that fixed price that we value priced. And then it becomes this moment where you sort of like stop and think, well, is this covered? Is this not covered? Should I just do it? Do I need to have a conversation about the client to reprice this next month? Do we need to do a change order? That's the part of value pricing that just didn't hit quite right. And because the transition came from hourly or came from an effort-based model, in one way, shape, or form, the resource management piece was baked into the value pricing. So there was some components of limited capacity that it was being factored into putting the price together and deciding whether or not we had the capacity to promise that result in exchange of whatever resources we can deploy at the time. So that was the major challenge that we've had with value pricing, and we still continue to have it today. After reading Ron's book, which I have it right here on my desk, okay, after reading Ron's book and listening to the podcast and listening to Ed class as well, and just kind of talking about this concept for 4 or 5 years at this point, and completely dismantling value pricing from the perspective that, hey, these two things are in odds at each other when it comes to the business model. Like some of the concepts, like being value driven, being focused on the end result, being focused on the customer, not being not having this cost plus approach and calculating costs in order to understand whether or not you're profitable. These things translate really well, I think, from value pricing to the subscription model. And in many ways, I'm very thankful that I went through that process because it changed fundamentally who I am as a business owner. However, what I want to completely change is the simplicity in which customers subscribe to the firm and unsubscribe to the firm. The simplicity in which customers know that they're paying a fixed dollar amount, and in exchange, they're getting all sorts of services that are not so much scope driven, and they're not even specific results driven from a measurable standpoint. They're mostly driven. They're mostly focused on continuous transformation, on the feeling that subscribing to this firm makes me a better business owner, and unsubscribing to that firm is taking a step backwards. And that's the general feeling that I think customers need to have in order to embrace this concept and not see it as a negative change, because value pricing was seen in some circles as something potentially negative, because people were thinking, well, the net purpose of this is to raise your price, and that's not how value pricing works, but that's how it's initially perceived if you're not number one, implementing it correctly, talking about it correctly, or having the value conversation, or truly tying it to the customer's perception of value, not the accountant's perception of value, which has been the biggest issue with that. But I think that with subscription, we tell our customers, look, you press a button, you subscribe to the firm. Okay, we tell you what's covered, we tell you what's not covered. Okay, as long as it's covered and you are subscribed, at that moment in time, you get access to all of it. Okay. At any point in time that you feel that you're paying a lot more than the value you're getting in return, you don't have to have a long drawn out conversation about whether you are happy or not happy. You just press a button and unsubscribe. And that concept really blew my mind, because I love Netflix. I think I have a relationship with Netflix through the shows that I watch, and I have My feelings towards Netflix, the brand, are very positive because I love the content that they give me. But I don't have to have this weird conversation about me not wanting to watch Netflix anymore. I just log in and unsubscribe. And that disappearance of friction makes it so much easier for me as a customer to flip the script and now be the one that sort of drives and controls this whole thing, because I get to choose when I want access to that value and when I don't. And that's what really makes me attractive to the subscription model. And this is why I made the decision this year, which was it was a difficult one, to completely sort of unlearn some of the things that we had to do, and also unteach our clients a little bit about what they're used to when it comes to the fixed price and value price, and transition onto implementing subscription.
So Hector, we talk about in the book 3 different models to pivot to subscription. And we talk about starting a new firm, gradually just doing subscription with your current customer base and as new customers come in, or setting a point in time in the future where you're just going to put everybody in subscription, kind of similar to what Adobe did when they went from box software to the cloud. Which method did you choose and why?
All right, so let me start with the why. Starting a new firm was an idea that I had because I wanted to rebrand and all that. The problem is I'm kind of strapped for talent right now. I have a core team, so I can't really, take 2 or 3 people from my team and start a brand new firm. It's just that the current situation of the times. Many other accounting firms might be feeling the same, where it's very difficult to get some key employees. So I did not want to disrupt what I had already with my employees. So starting a new firm was out of the question from that. The hybrid model was something I consider where, hey, I'll grandfather all my old customers into, the way we were doing business, and all the new ones would be subscription. I felt that could be an easier approach. The problem that I will have with that, and because I've been to these transitions before, and doing value pricing, we tried that and it didn't work really well, because then it creates it basically creates a buffer in your thinking. So every single time something happens, you're like, wait, is this an old client or a new client? And just slowing you down to think, is this old way or new way? That really slows everything down, and it really sort of splits your mind, into 2 minds. And I didn't want to have that. I wanted to have 100% my attention focus on the current clients that we had, and then make sure I don't confuse any of my team members in terms of how to approach it. So we went with a third approach, which is we picked a date, and this just happened in May of 2023. We picked a date where we communicated to all of our customers. And just I'll take a step back. A year ago, we stopped drafting new yearly contracts. So we were thinking about this already a year ago. So we made the decision after tax season last year in 2022. We decided we were no longer doing annual contracts. Everything was month to month. So from now in May of this year, we're completely liberated from any obligations to stay under the old model. Okay, so that's great. So now that we're in this position, we've told everybody, hey, we are going to send you a new agreement that is going to give you 2 proposals. One is going to be, you're going to be able to subscribe to our firm, and we're going to shape the subscription services that are covered and not covered around what you're used to sort of not disrupt, what you're used to. But it is going to be subscription, which is going to come with a plethora of new benefits, and also the promise that we're going to continuously increase those as we increase our capabilities as a firm and with technology. And just a side note to that, this all happened prior to knowing and understanding what ChatGPT and AI can do. Now I have a whole new way of looking at the world in terms of, all right, I can do some of the things that Netflix can do, with chatbots and stuff like that. So I might be able to be more like the tech companies when people subscribe to us, where they subscribe to both the humans and the technical capabilities that we're going to build through AI. Okay, so that's a quick side note on that. But they're going to be given those 2 options. First, the subscription version of the old service that contains new things and a new way of approaching service. And then also the plus version, which you're taking straight from your book, Ron, is the plus version is the one where they subscribe to the firm. And then we no longer look at scope. We just tell people, look, these are all the things that our firm can do. And anything that occurs to you during that period, you will have. Now, this plus feature will probably be double the price or maybe triple. Like, who knows? We're still deciding exactly what that factor is. And this is where value pricing training came in really handy, where we don't have to give the same price to every single customer. We actually are going to give a customized plus subscription price to every one of our customers, because we know which of these customers are going to want to, let's say, exploit, they subscribe to the firm, do everything that we can do under our roof. And that's good. If they want to exploit it, that means that they want to extract value from us. So that's a good sign, not a bad sign. But we just need to know that we need to allocate the resources, and we do that through pricing. So we're going to give people those two choices: the scoped, let's just say the core subscription, in which we specify what's covered and what is not covered, and the plus subscription where everything is included. And we suspect that maybe 70 to 80% of the new client of the old clients will probably stay within the same, but a good 20 to 30 are going to be so intrigued by this plus, where they're going to come back to us and go, I'll consider paying this double the price or whatever it is. Can you tell me a little bit more about what I can get in exchange? And this is where we can have this sort of unscheduled value conversation that's mostly about the future, not so much about the past or the current problem. So that's what makes me excited about choosing this version, Ron, that it allows me to maintain my core team the way it is, not disrupt it. I have accepted that some customers might not like the change. I do want to add that every single customer is going to have a price increase. So there's also a sort of a price increase in disguise in here, but it also needs to feel different. And I could also tell you about what I'm picturing about how it would feel different, but this is the way we have approached it.
How do you see this going forward? Because one of the things I love about subscription is once they decide to subscribe to your firm, the cognitive load of pricing is over. They're not being confronted with it at every change order. Go to the Department of Paperwork, get a change request, change order, all of that. They've made the decision. They're in the monthly rhythm of paying it, so it just becomes a normal expense like their rent or their car payment. And I just think that removing that cognitive load and just focusing on those serial transformations is a much better, healthier way to go down the road with a client to build that customer lifetime value. Because that's really what we're doing here. The profit formula in subscription is different. We're building lifetime annuities that are far more valuable than the cost to acquire them. And the only way that you can determine that is if you model it, right? And have that attitude about it. We've got to stop looking at the math of the moment. I don't care if it's value pricing or hourly billing. We look at the math of the moment. And that's just not long-term enough for a professional, especially accountants. So what do you think about, how do you see this going forward? You talked about the simplicity of this model. That's what this brings.
So let me start with one concrete example, okay? And this is very relevant to the times, and in 2 or 3 years, this will be completely dated. But we have the ChatGPT phenomenon, okay? And then we also have my customers that ask me a gazillion questions all year long. Some are basic, some are advanced, some are generic, some are customized. So immediately, the first thing I could think of is, what if I take a step back from, just client work and just think really deeply and hard about what would a Hector GPT look like, and I'm using or my firm's GPT look like. I'm trying to extract myself out of it for a second, but what would it look like if there was a system in which we load all the questions that every single customer has been asking us for the last 15 years about tax, accounting, general business strategy, and load it into a firm GPT type system, and not make that public, but make that available only to subscribed members. So that could be one version of, broadbandization of our services, because the main I find there's three companies that I'm using right now as inspiration to like where I'm gonna take this. One is Netflix, which I talked about, mostly because simplicity of subscribe and unsubscribe. I would say I'm drawing that from Netflix. The other one is Amazon Prime, because Amazon Prime is this weird combination of random things, okay? Which, the headline is the free shipping. I would say that's the main headline. Second headline is the Netflix like service of streaming, and then there's like a Amazon Music, and there's a whole bunch of other things that I don't even know they're there, but it makes me feel kind of happy that, hey, at any point in time that I'm bored, I can go see what else I can do with Amazon Prime. And I would love our firm to have that sort of feeling where customers go, it's summer, it's slow. I've extracted tons of value from this bookkeeping and advisory services. I wonder where else is in the, Hector universe of the subscription, or in the firm's universe inside the subscription. So like people go in there and search for benefits, and you can think of many things like having partnerships with local attorneys or something like that would give a better rate to your customers. And they discover that through the membership, kind of like how we do it when we're members of a credit card and they have, discount clubs and that sort of thing. Maybe I have partnerships with people like Ron Baker, and they can buy his book at a less price, because he's in my network of professionals and trusted professionals. And likewise, when Ron knows someone that needs my area of specialty, he'll probably refer it to me, that sort of thing. But we encapsulate that inside the subscription database, the member access, instead of it sitting in our heads, right? And then us only bring it out into the open when it's a very obvious question being asked to us. They go, oh yeah, I happen to have someone in my network. Let me go look at it in the Rolodex. It would be much better for us to digitalize or put into a sort of in a database of readily available streaming type of services for people to access. So that's the part that, both from Netflix and Amazon Prime, that I think I'm going to draw some inspiration from. And the third one is Costco. Okay, I have a fascination with Costco, mainly because when I came to America, the second day I came to America, the first place we went was Costco. Like, my perspective to what supermarkets are or places to shop was Costco. And it really completely changed my perspective in the world, because when I went to Walmart, you could tell the difference. When I went to Winn-Dixie, you can tell the difference. It was really stark. And I was almost telling my mom, this is when I was 12, I was saying, how come we're not going to Costco for this? So I had this weird, personal fascination with Costco. But then as I studied it through the years, I've noticed that Costco has two things that are really, really important that make Costco Costco. One is you cannot go in there and browse unless you're a member. That's a huge thing. Because customers have the ability to browse with us, because they can email us and say, hey, can I ask you a question about your services? That in itself, it's valuable. I think that just listening to somebody's problem and telling them, yes, I can help you, or no, I can't help you, even though there's no real solution there, that is valuable. And I think we're wasting hours and hours and millions of dollars as firms just talking to prospective clients. I think I much prefer to be a firm that is known to fix one thing and one thing only, and people subscribe to that firm to have free access to like the written stuff and the videos and the chatbots or whatever. And then if they want to, because they're members, they can then go ask a professional, hey, are you a good fit to help us in a one-on-one or a firm to firm basis? So like that subscription thing, to me, it's really important. But the second piece about Costco, and if you guys like wine and anybody likes wine, people know that the best wine procurement people in the world are hired in Costco. Okay, not just wine, just the general quality of the food that Costco procures is top notch. And as Costco members, we walk into Costco and see a no-name brand new thing, like taco fritters, breakfast taco fritters or whatever, and you never heard of this thing, but you almost trust implicitly that because it's in Costco, it's gotta be good. Same thing with Costco brand wines or no-name brand wines. You almost feel, look, if Costco buy this, it must be good. And I don't know what that looks like in a firm, but I do know that I want my customers to have that feeling. I want customers to say, if Hector's firm does this or recommends this or buy this or tells you to buy this or tells you to look at this or recommends this reading, this article, it must be good. And that cannot be free. That has to have a paywall, and you have to subscribe to that. So that's where I'm drawing my inspiration from. And whatever we create beyond, the examples that I gave you will probably come within the context of that.
I'll turn this back to Omri after this last question, Hector, but you just landed on something that I think is one of the most difficult things to articulate about this model. When a customer subscribes to a business, it completely changes the relationship. Completely. It feels psychologically different to be, and look, I'm a subscriber of Amazon, just like you are. I've never interacted with anybody. I don't have a personal relationship with anybody in Amazon, just like you don't with Netflix. I think I've called Amazon once for technical support, but that was it. But I feel I have a different relationship with companies that I subscribe to. And that just, it builds a moat around your firm. Now they're not even going to consider alternatives anymore for the most part. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And I think American Express Platinum card holders will agree with me also. The difference between going out and renting a car at any place and going through the spiel of the insurance and what's covered and what's not covered and worrying about it and doing the calculation that says, I never driven in Chicago with it. Like, I think that American Express card holders that know that when you rent a car somewhere, there's this implicit insurance kind of covered. I actually don't even know how it works. All I know is that I don't even listen to the person. I say, I got American Express Platinum and I'm using it to rent. That feeling, it's like MasterCard, right? It's priceless. Like that feeling of like just this whole compartment of the buying process. It's no longer something you even look at. It's just completely taken out of the equation because you feel the confidence because you're subscribed to this other thing that is there. And I think the same thing happens going back to Costco. Same thing happens with Costco. Like I could buy a product in Costco, not like it, and return it, and not worry about it. And granted, Target and Walmart do that too, but it's expected from a low quality, high volume place to be like that. Usually high quality places like Costco generally, there's more consternation in the whole return process. And I think that Costco values the lifetime membership of the individual versus the calculated cost of receiving a return. And that's a key thing. It's just like buying with confidence or walking around the world with confidence or not having to worry about one little aspect of life because that membership covered it. It's priceless. And it's going to truly, truly build that proverbial moat you're talking about.
First of all, thank you. I think I agree with Ron that you nailed it on the head in terms of articulating the value. I've been waiting to ask this, sitting on my hands, sort of. Like you said earlier, when you actually talked about value pricing in the transition, that it changed you as a person, it changed you as a business owner. So I'd love to hear about that shift, and where do you feel the shift to this model will take you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the most important exercise that you have to make when you move to value pricing, you have to build the value conversation muscle. Like it's something that if you're not having value conversations 30 to 40 times a year, you're not building that muscle. What the muscle memory of value conversations give you is being able to discern the questions behind the question. And you will practice over time when you're trying to discover what is the true piece of the work that the customers actually get value from. Requires you to ask tons of questions. And what happens is through the process of having value conversations, you start understanding how people frame their thought process, how they frame the problem, how they frame the proposed solution, and how they frame the evaluation of solving that problem. I think that as a human being, as an advisor, as a family member, as a friend, when having any sort of discussion with anyone, talking about anything, I have this muscle memory that helps me sort of read between the lines and just get right to the crux of the conversation, and allows us to skip through some of the BS and go, okay, what's at the end of the day, what we're talking about, what about it is going to make a true change in our lives, or is going to have real impact on our day to day. And if we don't get to that part, then everything else is just dancing around it, right? So I think that's a skill that I really really loved, and transformed me as a person, from value pricing. And what subscription is, it's going to allow me to do, I think, what subscription is going to allow me to do is, because customers are going to have a bit more random, there's going to be more random demands, because we're sort of giving them the reins in terms of driving the narrative about what a firm is supposed to do for them. That I am going to learn a lot more about how customers behave or express what they want us to help them with, that is not constrained to the scope limitations we gave them at the very beginning. And I think that when we gave them those scope limitations through value pricing or through hourly, whatever it was, when we gave them the scope limitations, we reframed to the customer, or we taught them what accounting services are supposed to be. And then they basically went back into the corner, and many of the things that they could have told us, this is how you can create value from us, was completely hidden from our site. Is that we don't even have exposure to it, because we try to, because we were so much focused on volume, and I'm culprit of that, focus on getting as many customers as possible. We are trying to fit our customers' interactions into these very specific boxes that allows us to maximize our capacity and take as much customers as possible, and quite frankly also maximize our revenue. Whereas with subscription, especially with a plus type of subscription, I think customers are going to come to you and they're going to ask for new wacky ways you can create value from them, and some of them will be truly out of scope from the perspective of, can you even do it? But in the process of subscription, there will be one customer that asks for one really weird thing, where I will realize that we thought we couldn't do it, but we can. And from there, something great and innovative is going to happen that's going to completely transform not just our firm, but our employees, and quite frankly, the industry. So I think that subscription and the attitude towards subscription will open up the floodgates for us to rebuild the entire perspective of what professionals in this space can do for our customers, and hopefully reward us accordingly. And through that learning process, I think we can make big dents in the universe.
Amazing. And I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to be devil's advocate a bit, and think of someone listening to this and say, okay, but I'm not Hector. And you actually, while you were talking, I sort of answered myself. I'm saying, like, a lot of the things that you're talking about is finding that plus, finding how you add that value, not, even if you don't exactly know how it's going to look like, but just having that as a framework is making sure that this is the path that you have to go through, and it will bring you there. So that's incredible to me. And the other part, and this is possibly, where Anchor is playing a part in our trio, is the technical aspect of it. So, a lot of people always in conferences are saying, okay, this is really nice, but how do I implement it? How do I take it into reality from the vision?
So I can share my screen, Omri, and can I show you what I've done with Anchor and like why I picked Anchor in the first place? So let me share my screen really quick. Ron, I don't know if you want to add something to that, but
no, go ahead. I was just going to say, I just love what you said about that creation. When that client asks you to do something that you've never done before, it's not about selling our hands. We're knowledge workers. We should be working with our minds as well. And you might just come up with a groundbreaking innovation that could spread across all your customers.
Exactly.
So that's great.
Yeah, which is why it's so important to implement this, to make it actually work. So let me show you what I came up with. So I I met with the Anchor team at QuickBooks Connect in 2022. I was mostly listening because I couldn't talk back then. And I think that because I was listening, I think a breakthrough happened, because usually I'm the one who's doing the talking and not thinking too much. So one thing I did notice is through a simple interface of allowing your customers to choose how they're going to subscribe to you, pay electronically, sign the contract or agreement, because it's really just month to month, but sign the agreement, and the mechanism to pay and unsubscribe. By making it really easy for your customers, inadvertently it'll make it really easy for you to implement in your firm. So let me show you what we did. I made a duplicate of my real company file here, and I'm going to show you some of the components here. So services is sort of the simplest area in Anchor. This is where you can think of this as scope components. You can think of this as services that are covered, or you can think of this as sort of templates on what's going to go in the proposal. Now, you could have a simple services like this cleanup catch up, for example, which could be just one service, and you write there what cleanup catch up means. Clean up your bookkeeping, catch up your bookkeeping, and this is a template. And you also put a rate there, which is also a template. You choose whether this is going to be a weekly, monthly, or one time. Typically, catch up, which is how we pick up all of our clients. We have to get them cut up first before we do anything monthly. That would be a fixed price, but this has all sorts of options there. So we create the product or service, and in this case, I created a multiple sort of like scope-based services, which I'm going to show you how I'm implementing this. And I also have a plus subscription that basically says everything we can do, we'll do. And our firm made a decision not to do taxes. We did taxes for 15 years. So we're not doing taxes anymore. So it's the only thing that's not covered is tax returns. But everything else that basically describes what we do as a bookkeeping firm, as an accounting firm, which is bookkeeping, record keeping, bank reconciliation, periodic adjustments, financial reporting, sales tax compliance, invoice and bill payment, payroll support, AR support, AP support, budget and forecasting, inventory, and business consulting. That's all the firm. That's everything we can do. So that's listed under covered services, because we do have to tell people all the things we can do so they don't get really creative about those things, right? So because we have a physical capability of the maximum amount of things we can do as a firm. So we get to pick here how this service gets delivered. I know some people are doing this weekly, which I totally see value in that as well, but we do it monthly. And then we put a base price, just a templated price, and we put here that is a fixed price. And the billing trigger, because it's a subscription, is going to be automatic on schedule. So like, I don't want to send the customer an invoice and they have to pay it. They're going to give us a credit card. It's going to charge every month. So it gives you a general idea. You have completely free range on how you can create the products or the services. Once that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to create a proposal. I'm going to start with a draft, okay, because the draft is going to be your template that's going to combine the services, and the combination of services in itself could be the final product. So we're going to go in there. I'm going to duplicate a current draft, and I'm going to send Omri a template. So we're going to call this Omri's proposal or something like that. And we're going to create a new contact, and we're going to put Omri here. Phone number is optional. I hit create. So then the person I'm going to send the proposal has been created. Now in this template, what I have done is I created two options for the customers. We have a core option, and then we have a plus option. So the plus option is a single product. A single product has the plus subscription, which means you subscribe to the firm. Everything is included. I can click on edit, and I can change basically the price of the plus option. So you can actually value price each customer individually for this plus subscription. You don't have to have like this published price on your website or anything like that. And then usually what I like to do is when we do a plus subscription is I actually state what the customer's goal is, because typically when people are asking for this sort of serial transformation, what you do want, let me go back here. What you do want is to like re-emphasize that we are in partnership to help you achieve this goal continuously. So in this one is expand to multiple states, that came from essentially a value conversation that we had prior, and then basically a copy and paste of all the services that are included. Okay, so that's going to be the plus option, which is $5,000 a month. And again, this will be completely customized per user. And then the core option, which essentially I went and I picked which products and services from the list of scope people can choose to individually subscribe to. And the core one is really based on some of the services that I already was offering to my current customers that are transitioning. So my plus is going to be the leading product that we're going to offer to all of our new customers during the transition. And the core is going to be customized for every customer in my existing database. And we're going to make it very similar so it sort of looks and feels for what they're used to. And there will be a little price bump because it usually, there needs to be a price bump to it for it to feel different. So once you load them all in there, you actually can tell Anchor, which of these are optional, which of these are required, which of these can be can people manually unsubscribe to in a monthly basis versus unsubscribing to the entire sort of fixed price. And then you can say whether or not you're including it as a default or not including it as a default. So we'll change some of these and then kind of show you what this looks like at the end. So I'm going to click on client preview. So prior to sending it to your customer, you can actually see what it looks like from their experience. So you get, the initial call to, hey, we're about to send you an agreement. Then people will click on select package. Your customer will have the ability to click on select for the core package and then be able to have optional services, as we mentioned earlier, or just select the plus package. Then they can click on next, and then they'll be able to click in any of these so they can choose and customize their experience. Then finally click on approve terms, tell us how they want to pay, and this is where Anchor comes into play. Anchor is a payment processing system, and this is really the Anchor's business model is processing the payments. So then the customer gets to choose how how they pay. They click on next, close preview, and then you're done previewing it. At that point, if you're happy with that experience, you click on next, and you click on send proposal. If you want to change something in that sort of initial email, you can do that. And then we'll click on send proposal, and then we leave it up to the customer to make the decision at that point.
Hector, one last question. What would you tell people listening to us about how to make this leap if they're holding back or they're maybe fearful about things that might break if they'll do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just keep in mind that breaking things is the innovation process. So if you right now feel your business model is perfect, all your customers pay you on time, you're as profitable as you want to be, you could sell your firm really easily and get exactly what the firm is worth. You can retire and all your employees can take over immediately and nothing would change. If you feel your firm is perfect, then don't change anything, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, we as an industry will be forced to change, and it'll be a matter of deciding on whether or not we want to be the catalyst of that change, or if you want that change to come to us. It will be forced to change. And automation, software companies mixing the products and their services that sort of undermine what we do, artificial intelligence, and things that we don't even know what they look like that will come in the next couple of years, will fundamentally change customers' perception as to what does it look like to work with a firm. And I think that the Amazons of the world, the Netflix of the world, the Amazon Primes made it so easy to one-click purchase, subscribe, unsubscribe, that if we don't give people that option, too many of our competitors will, and it will be a no-brainer for customers to go to the more modern, more forward-looking, more accommodating type firm. We don't need to change what we do. We still give sound advice about how to run their businesses and how to save for taxes. We still make sure that the bookkeeping is done correctly. We still prepare financial statements and decision-making tools for customers to be better business owners and raise their confidence in their numbers so they can focus on doing what they do best, continue to innovate, and achieve their goals. That doesn't change. None of this changes what we do. The only thing that it changes is how customers interact monetarily through the subscription process, and how customers feel about what it feels like to be subscribed to a firm that has their back versus feeling like you're paying for a service that you might or might not be getting value from. So this is not something that you must do because it'll make you more money, or you must do because this is the way it needs to be done. You must do this, or you should do this, because if you don't, you will be forced to do it on somebody else's terms. So switching to subscriptions is a way, I think, is the way to shape the future of our profession and shape the future of your firm exactly to your liking, the way you picture it, the way you envision it, the way that it matches your values and your vision for the future.
Incredible. So it's a, it's a very, very, very strong point. Like, if you don't make the decision, possibly reality will make it for you. And having this in place basically is a insurance policy in, versus commoditization of our space, of this profession, because you can't be a commodity with this model.
Correct. Absolutely. But it's interesting. We're both commoditizing it from a transactional point of view, but we're uncommoditizing it from a relationship point of view.
The good thing about this conversation is it made me believe in this model so much more, because I'm talking to you and I understand it more, and I understand like it applies to more people than I felt initially. Initially, I felt that, okay, only like really, really like, the top 1% will be able to grasp this and put it into play. But I actually feel now that it could be a lot more approachable.
Absolutely. And thank you for building the Anchor platform to my specifications, because my vision of subscription might be different than other people's vision of subscriptions. And I think that what we've done with Anchor so far, and I'm sure it's only just gonna get better. It's gonna be the easiest way to implement this, and that's why we picked you guys to do this.
Thank you so much. We're more than honored and privileged to build it around what you think, and I think you're leading the space in doing this. And I hope that this will inspire other people to choose one of the paths, not necessarily a full transition, but at least begin to play with it, and it has the potential to change their life, like it has yours in the past. And we are going to continue to be a champion for this and support the industry in any way we can.
Thank you.